Hey y'all, welcome to In Order of Awesome. I'm Sarah and I present my top 5 books of the week. So this week I'm coming to you in all of my summer glory. And I'm presenting a week late because I had a little bit of a summer cold and just kind of felt gross. Anyway, you all need to know that. But I only also read 3 books last week, so that is my confession, because I just got bogged down in one of them, and it was my least favorite book of the week, and I actually technically listened to it. It is Lauren Oliver's Vanishing Girls. I really like Lauren Oliver, typically. This book, Vanishing Girls, I cannot tell you how much I disliked it. Not a whole lot went on in the beginning, and there was kind of a big plot twist at the end, but it was a plot twist that I kind of saw coming, and also, too, when we got to it, I didn't care. I mean, I just didn't care enough about the characters or what they were experiencing or going through to think, oh man, that's a real bummer for them. And I don't want to read it for you in case you want to read it, but it just fell a little flat for me. I read last summer E. Lockhart's We Were Liars, and this is kind of in the same vein, and I thought We Were Liars was brilliant. There was excellent foreshadowing. There was all of this interweaving of these different plots and these different plot devices that went through the narrative that made it really compelling. And this just was a very one-note, very flat. Certain things were foreshadowed a lot where you went, oh, well, that guy's involved in that thing. And it was true, but it was so obvious. But then there was virtually no foreshadowing for the actual big reveal. And I feel like that's cheap, in my personal opinion. I even went on Goodreads to see what other people thought of it, and there are a lot of mixed reviews. You either really loved it or you just hated it, and I unfortunately fell in the hate it column, which I don't like hating books, and I know that authors work hard and put their hearts into things, so I feel badly saying that, but it was not for me. It is not one that I would highly recommend. I would say if you were looking for a suspenseful thriller, skip Vanishing Girls and go to We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. Simple as that. It was hard again for me to decide what was going to be number 2 and number 1 in this week's slot. And I finally went with, I put one of my favorite books in the number 2 slot. I like to spend part of my summer rereading books that I've loved a lot. And so one of this summer's rereads was A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. As a book lover, if you have not read this book, do it right now. Because Francie, the main character, is such a book lover, and books and words and learning encompass so much of her life. This is a book where it doesn't follow a traditional narrative plot arc. There's not one big turning point for our character, Francie, or even the periphery characters. But there's just a lot of little episodic things that, it's true, it's what makes up a life, these little bitty things that we go along. And Betty Smith just tells those little bitty life things so beautifully, and sometimes so sadly, and sometimes so joyfully, that it's just a pleasure to read. And every chapter, there were sentences that I just kind of stopped and went, oh, this is just beautiful writing. Great book about a girl growing up struggling in the early 1900s. Her father's an alcoholic. Her mom works all the time. She is the nerdy, bookish one. Her brother is the kind of outgoing, handsome, winsome one. And I think a lot of people relate to her, or could relate to her, particularly people who are bookish and maybe more quiet. So I would say 100% check out A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. It is a great read. My number 1 read for this week is Misquitoland by David Arnold. This is his debut novel, and he has a great voice. He reminds me a little bit of John Green, and that there are all these quirky and memorable characters, and just very catchy phrases and things that run throughout the novel itself. But it's about a girl, Mim. Mim is short for her initial, Mary Iris Malone, and her dad her parents have gotten divorced, her dad's gotten remarried, and they moved from the Midwest to Florida, Misquitoland. She hates it, and she overhears a conversation between her stepmother, excuse me, and her principal saying that her mom is sick. And so Mim steals some money out of a coffee can at her house and gets on a Greyhound bus and is going to go see her mother, who has not been calling or writing letters anymore like she had been. And on the way, she just meets it's that classic road trip story in that you meet all of these unlikely people along the way who help you through this journey. But it actually at times got a lot darker than I thought it was going to, because those kinds of things, like Paper Towns, great book, but it was all very light. There wasn't a lot at stake for these characters. But it becomes a huge life or death sometimes situation for Mim and the people that she meets along the way. And there are just all these great quotes and things. She always remembers her mom in the happy times as the young fun now. And whenever she's talking about things in her life that stay the same, she says, and it was always this. And I just like characters who have this grandiose sense of self, that they have these phrases that we would assign as like sociologists to eras or whatever, but they assign them to their own lives as they're living it, and I just think that's quirky and fun and cool. And it had a lot of hope, it had a lot of promise, there was a lot of healing that went on in that book, and I really like that. I like stories with a lot of heart. Who I am as a person, I'm an empathy, I'm a blue. But those were my top 3 for the week. Thanks for sticking with me, even in my glorious summer grossness at 10:45 on a Wednesday after trivia. But if you like what you've seen, or think that you could like what you see, if you liked a different video, whatevs. Please like and subscribe, and come back next week where I promise there will be 5 books that I review from top to bottom. Thanks, and have a great week. She always remembers her mom in her happy times as the young fun... Sorry, there was a moth. Moths. I hate moths. God. Moths.